please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. All right, we'll begin the public session now. Please stand for the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have privilege of the floor at this time. Mr. Carlson? What's up?
My name is Rich Carlson, and I did attend the first Wednesday meeting in February to address the board here. And one of the things that we were told is that we had to give our name and address before speaking. The first four of us that spoke did give our name. And if we didn't give our address, we were said, "What's your address?" And we gave it. The fifth person that spoke was a member of the teachers union. She was not asked to give her address. Why, I don't know. But if it's public information, I think it should have been, she should have been told to give us her address as well. That was a procedure I think it should have been followed. The second thing was when we signed in, we were told whoever signs in first speaks first. Whoever signs in second, speaks second, which makes sense. It's no different when I talk in front of the Niagara County legislators. That's the way they do it. It's no different when I talk in front of the town of Wheatfield at their monthly meetings. That's the way they run it. I signed in second, but I was told, "You're speaking first." Seemed a little strange to me at the time, but it made sense as it went on. Because the next ones that followed me all had the same ideas that I had. And then the fifth person that spoke was the member of the teachers union, who spoke contradicting everything we had already presented. To me, that was a setup deal. If that's your procedure, you follow your procedure. It's the way it's run in other places. Don't know why you didn't follow the procedure. I did listen to what she had to say. And she talked about diversity, inclusion, and equity, or as the acronym says, DIE, which to me was no different than the Marxist critical race theory, or CRT. Now, we do have a meeting set up with the superintendent, all those that spoke at the last meeting, and he wants to speak with us concerning this. I look forward to that meeting with him. I just want all the board members here to know we are watching what you're doing and how you're doing it. Thank you.
Disposals as submitted. To approve Proposition 1, the adoption of the budget. To approve Proposition 2, the authorization to expend from a capital transportation reserve. To approve Proposition number 3, the authorization to expend from a school district technology reserve. To approve number 8, to approve from Proposition number 4, the authorization. I gotta zoom in. I can't read that properly. The authorization establishment of a 2022 general capital reserve fund. Number 9, to accept the extracurricular activities accounts report. Number 10, to approve the IEPs as listed. And number 11, to approve the late private broker transportation requests. All right, any item to separate or to discuss? Not then. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. Call for a motion to accept the personnel report as submitted.
I'll second.
Any item to separate or to discuss? Okay. All those in favor then please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining, motion carries. All right, standing committees, capital project.
We had our meeting on the 22nd.
The 22nd it was, yeah, our last meeting on the 22nd. We went over, they brought back prioritizing different things that needed to be done and kind of reviewed it, and we set in motion where they're going to put numbers to it
Cost estimates.
and then come back to us, and then we'll just discuss where we want to go from there. Next meeting is it's going to be in the middle school this time because there's a couple things we want to look at in the middle school.
Okay.
It's March
It is March 21st.
21st. Yep, March 21st.
Okay. Any questions of Bob on the capital project, please? All right, policy committee. We have the second reading and adoption of policy 5130, budget adoption 5230, acceptance of gifts, grants, or bequests to the district. Policy 5570, financial accountability. Policy 5683, fire and emergency drills, bomb threats, and bus emergency drills. Policy 5750, school bus safety. Policy 5760, the qualifications of bus drivers, and policy 6140, employee medical exemptions. Anything to discuss on all those items or any questions you have of Julie? All those in favor then, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstaining. Motion carries. All right, we have the internal claims audit report there as an informational item. Our student member is probably at some sporting event tonight, knowing how that's been going with the sports season.
Yes, she just texted me 5 minutes ago. She is on her way.
Very good. And we're gonna go over to the superintendent for his report.
There we go. First, I want to talk a little bit about some of the federal stimulus funding. Okay. One of the amendments we like to make has to do with getting a couple extra small vehicles. We talked about this earlier in the year. We're looking at for the transportation department use so that they could run out, grab a few extra kids when needed. So they're not running big buses. This is something that we can do with our federal stimulus funds. So that's going to be the recommendation. I have talked with Mr. Stack and Mr. Hazel, and we're working on breaking down like our costs. Mr. Hazel's done a lot of that work already of where we're at currently with the federal stimulus funding, and the spending will come a little bit later here in the spring with the kind of the cost analysis of where we're at with that, breaking down each of the separate funds. Okay. But it's a really important, I think, endeavor for us to get these smaller vehicles. We've talked in the past about why, and we think it's certainly beneficial. The COVID-19 protocols, we want to talk a little bit about that if we could. Do you have it? Should be. Is it up there? Okay, let me move on. I'll share it with you really quick, okay? What's that? Oh, you can't see that there? It'll, when they blow it up, it should be a little bit better, okay? Just give me 1 second. Tom, you want to give your announcement while I'm getting this up here?
A couple quick announcements. We will be doing COVID-19 test distribution kits again. That is not limited to anybody that's been come up with that. So anybody can come and get them. Those dates will be March 9th and March 23rd, 2:30 p.m. to 4:30 p.m. right here at the ALC, right outside of door number 49. We have been able to disperse a couple thousand kits. Over the first 2 giveaways, we're looking to give out more of that inventory. Just a measure to hopefully keep our student population and staff population testing regularly and feeling safe. to school. Also, just a quick announcement on open enrollment. Open enrollment has began for pre-K for the 2022-23 school year. Applications can be printed online and or under the district's webpage. And they also can be picked up Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the registrar's office or number 6 at Western School. They must be turned in by March 11th to be eligible for the year's program. Child must be 4 years of age by December 1st, 2022 to be eligible for pre-K. Open enrollment for kindergarten will begin April 1st through 8th, and applications can be accessed at the district's website. Just want to make a quick announcement there. The signboards are updated around the district, and information has been shared across our website platform as well as our homepage. Thank you.
Question. If I may. Tom, would you know if there's a shelf life on these test kits?
There is a shelf life on the kits that have been coming into us,
Okay.
and we've noticed a little bit of a pattern right now. A lot of the last shipment we have, they have a shelf life up through July. What we've noticed with the pattern that has been coming through though is that very often they are extended. The shelf life has been extended, and they have serial numbers and codes that they issue to us from the county that will either extend them or deny the extension. It's a good question. Yep.
And just to add a little bit to that, we have different tests in stock. So the ones that came in first, they tend to have the short shelf life. Those ones are here first when we get them out. Makes sense, right? Okay. Can you see that? Much better. Good. Okay. We did put this out to the school community. This went out today. For those that don't know, the mask mandate was lifted. It was lifted effective actually today. That information came to us Sunday, and we received the guidance document that went along with it about 7:20 last night. Okay, so today we looked through that. Last night, today we looked through that, and we put together some guidance for families. First and foremost, it's now optional. Certainly, students, staff, anyone coming in our buildings can certainly wear masks. Some people may wear them in certain circumstances, and they can certainly do that. There is one exception, okay? And I wasn't really surprised whenever this came out, but it was certainly a question that we had when we heard that masks would be optional. And that is that someone who's returning from, oh, I went too far. Someone who's returning from being COVID positive during those days 6 through 10, they have to wear a mask, okay? Because that's considered like they're still in an exposure time. So that's the only group now in schools that have to wear masks. They would have to wear that, whether they're on a bus, whether they're in, in class, in the halls, they don't have to wear it no matter what. That's the only group now, okay? All others in all other areas, it's now optional, right? And then there were some recommendations, and as far as the New York State Department of Health is concerned, but all of these are recommendations. None of these are required as far as places where they can wear masks. I won't read this to you. You can certainly read it yourself there. This is also up on our website. Mr. Stack.
Yep. New York State aligns with the CDC definition of close contact in schools. In the school setting with universal masking, a close contact is generally defined as 3 feet. The one, if they were consistently and wearing a well-fitting mask, that is now going to be 6 feet. All right, so that is one, a little bit of a change without the mask. So all of the quarantine procedures that we've been executing in the district this year, all of those things will stay the same. But again, we will be looking at a 6 foot radius for quarantine procedures, for those individuals exposed to an infected person.
And the really great news, I think, is a lot of the numbers have been really low. We had one case.
Yeah, we've had one case the past 2 days. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
Obviously, when you look at mitigation strategies, we're going to continue to check with the Niagara County Department of Health on this to see what, in addition to, hand sanitization, regular cleaning, all of those things that we will continue to do. If there's anything in particular we should be doing or advance something we should be doing, we're going to stay in touch with them. But particularly, we're interested in the Test to Stay program and seeing how that impacts our ability to keep students in school during an exposure period.
It was the one area of the guidance document that was very specific to check with your LHD, with your local health department.
That's right.
Okay, so we'll work with them on this and what their interest is. As far as the state health department's concerned, it's no longer a requirement, but we're supposed to check with our local.
Yeah. This is just a slide. Again, it's on our website. We will continue to have testing here every single Thursday for the foreseeable future from 1:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. Again, it's right here in the ALC. And all of the updates from yesterday in the state guidance have been placed on our website, but they're available at those two links right there. It gives us guidance. There's some flow charts embedded in some of those documents that are certainly helpful. The Niagara County Department of Health at first put out a self-reporting mechanism that was a web link address. And that was a little cumbersome. So I like what they've done here. Kudos to them. They have now issued a QR code where you can upload directly to or from the QR code, upload your positive result, thereby immediately getting not only to the county, but it goes directly to New York State's portal as well for reporting. I did make the announcement here for the test kit distribution. We're going to do that once again on those two dates, and for as long as we can, as long as the supply is there. And that's it.
Any questions?
The people, time that they come on the 9th and the 23rd, as long as they're within the district, or they can come anywhere from the county to pick up the test kits.
We have sent it directly to our county, or I'm sorry, to our district residents, Blackboard Connect.
Okay.
Sure, real quick, does there seem to be any sort of new recommendations with like staff testing? Is that all the same?
That has not changed in there. Yeah. And actually, good question, Jason. That's actually the reason for really the main reason for the Thursday testing center still, because that's the one that cannot be a home test. And I'll just say we have far fewer, I think most places do, people who are still doing that. Mainly because of the number of people who ended up positive. So for 90 days, they don't have to test the way it's written now. Okay, I just wanted to bring up, if we could, just a couple other things here. We have, I think, a couple pictures there related to our unified bowling. So our unified bowling team won the Section 6 first place. So congratulations to the team, to the coaches. Certainly really exciting. And Mr. and Mrs. Profrock were running that team this year, and there's a certain amount of pride attached with that. And I wanted to thank the board again for supporting the unified sports. It's certainly been a real positive thing for our district, and for them to win first place, really cool. Could you put up the sign? I know I'm keeping you really busy. I apologize. Okay. If you can see this when you come in on out on Under Settlement, we, as part of our project, we had some replacements of signs. The ones that were out there before, you didn't notice they were black, they were silver gray. Actually very difficult to see, especially at night. They've been replaced with these, and you can see that they're also in the native Tuscarora language. We've done that just on our larger signs. We obviously, the smaller sign, it really loses its effect. But when we get into some of our internal signs, some of the larger way signage inside of our buildings will have some of the Tuscarora language on there as well. So we're pretty excited about that. And I do want to give credit to our CDEP team. Boy, about 4 or 5 years ago now, this was something that was really brought up there and became something that we said we wanted to have as part of a project. Really, the reason why it took so long is because by the time we got this project planned and we got to the last phase of the project, which is the signage piece, we remember we weren't putting our signage up until the parking lots were done. So now you're starting to see those signs. So I did send something to the members of that CDEP team from a number of years ago, just thanking them for their involvement. But I think it certainly sends a really good thing and a really positive one. The boys varsity basketball team tomorrow, 6 o'clock, Buff State. Semifinals, section 6 semifinals. So if you can make it, very exciting. We also have the high school musical, which is the Addams Family, coming up March 11th and 12th. That's at 7 p.m. And then the matinee on Sunday is at 2 p.m. So that's exciting. And all of you can probably say my last one, which I say every meeting. That is that breakfast and lunch is free till the end of the year, June 30th of 2022. We don't know what's going to happen after that, but it is free until then. And so we've certainly had many students taking advantage of that.
Any questions of superintendent on his report? And just so the board knows, if you do come to it, you'll be seeing a cameo of Mr. Stack, Mr. Lalanich, and myself in the musical this year. Mhm.
Let's be really clear. There's going to be zero singing or dancing from at least this person.
And actually, you're going to probably just see about that much of our body on it. Yeah. So, all right. Allison and Dan for the budget presentation.
So, yep, go right ahead.
Well, I mean, you can call them during presentation. Yes,
Yeah,
call them up to present.
so we have a presentation that's identical to really what we did last time until the expenditure budget is set. You're going to hear those presentations tonight. The only thing that we wanted to bring up from our presentation was the tax levy limit went from, and you can probably go down to the let's see. Yep, perfect. That slide right there, and if you could just make perfect. That number was 2.6% because of another pilot that impacted this. It actually, which was the day that we presented last time, came off the rolls, correct? Changed.
Actually, it was a pilot that was supposed to go on the rolls.
And it didn't.
But it did
Okay,
not.
so it was in the calculation, had to come back out. So that's why it's 2.57%. Okay. So other than that, we will, I think I'll go from left to right unless you had an order now. Okay, Leslie, you're up. First, transportation.
I'm Leslie Bukowski from the Transportation Department. My budget is going to be on transportation. This is my budget review. Basically, it's equipment. Nothing has changed. The only thing we've done is up buses to 820,000 instead of 810 because of the cost of the prices and because of the limitation of parts and things of that nature. Fuel costs have stayed the same. Maps and routing. Bus drive supplies have stayed the same. Tires and parts. Right now, we have 43 drivers, including the permanent unassigned, 18 attendants, 4 mechanics and 2 laborers, 1 head bus driver, 2 office clericals that don't drive, 1 school bus fleet coordinator, and 1 director of transportation. Note, 9 of these bus garage staff, 7 of them drive regularly. Transportation and maintenance. Our current maintenance schedule includes 69 buses and 1 shop truck, as well as 10 vehicles for buildings and grounds, 1 food service vehicle. Our mechanics provide minor maintenance in a 3-month and 6-month routine checklist. Our school bus DOT profile is 98.7 out of 100%. And this was updated as of March 31st. We'll find out this year the same. I'm hoping we go up a percentage. Staffing recommendation, we continue to recruit, maintain safe quality drivers and attendant monitors. Thank you for the safety and support of our children. Please stay safe. Any questions?
Are we allowed to ask questions?
Question. First of all, nice job last week.
Thank you.
You said earlier in the report, with the fuel costs, it stayed the same. How do you adjust? I'm assuming your costs are going up just like the gas stations, right?
They're going up, but they're not going up as high as the gas stations because we go by a BOCES bid and they have to maintain it.
Now, not knowing what the future is the next several months, how's your budget positioned for an increase of costs?
Answer that. for
Go
you.
ahead.
We build in a cushion
Uh,
because the prices fluctuate so much. So we do build it in and we've been under it the last few years. So I'm pretty comfortable with where we are with what's budgeted.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Leslie.
Thank you. Enjoy your school buses.
Thank you.
Thank you. Greg, wait, who's further left? Greg, go ahead. Then Matt.
Hello, everybody. For those online, I'm Greg Phillips, the Director of Facilities here at Niagara Wheatfield. And this is just a little presentation for the 22-23 upcoming school budget for facilities. Currently on staff, we have one head custodian district-wide, 4 maintenance mechanic personnel, 5 district-wide laborers, 6 building laborers. I have 33 full-time night cleaners, 5 full-time day cleaners, 2 part-time night cleaners, and 1 mail courier on our staff. They do cover roughly just under 730,000 square feet district-wide in all 7 of our buildings. And you can probably conservatively triple that number of square footage with grounds, pavement, sports fields, and everything else district-wide. Going into the 22-23 school year, we're in pretty good shape actually for staffing and equipment district-wide. We managed to fill some open vacancies and add some new vital equipment to our fleet over the last year. It was definitely tricky with all the COVID-19 mandates along with the supply shortages that we had to deal with. Currently, we have 1 building labor position that's open and we're just waiting for a posting to come down. We should be able to get that filled. And we're waiting on 1 truck still from last year that's been ordered since it was supposed to be delivered in August. They just keep pushing the date off. I guess May is what they're telling me, but it won't surprise me if it's October of this year. So there was an overall decrease in the budget on the custodial contractual supply this year. The savings were mainly achieved from a decreased expenditures being occurred for COVID-19 supplies and equipment. Federal monies have now been allocated for these items so we can continue to keep, our schools safe and clean. I do have an increase on our maintenance contractual cost. Siemens for HVAC control service contract went up $2,331. Smart Edge for HVAC controls and services went up $1,195, and Modern for our trash removal went up this year $2,182 for an increase of $4,632 on our maintenance contractual side. Thank you for your consideration and for the proposed changes. Anybody have any questions?
I have a couple, Greg.
Yeah.
I hear a lot of good things about you. That's number one.
Well, thank you.
But 2 questions. Your salt, with the amount of winter that we had, has that stressed your budget out, or are we good there?
No, we're right about on the money this year. We did bump it last year. We increased the salt budget for our OGS for the state bulk salt that we get that we put down with the trucks. And we've been right on the money with our bag salt that we use like outside the doors and at our doorways. So the winter's been pretty good. We're right about on track. So.
There's another question.
I don't have a microphone. I don't know if I have it censored or not, but.
No, you can pass one over. You were not
Greg, in relation to the new sports fields,
How much savings have you realized in labor in getting fields ready with the turf for labor hours? I mean, has it been measurable?
I don't think, I think it's kind of a wash. We saved in some areas and we've picked up maintenance in other areas. It's been more time consuming up and down with the fences for the outfield for baseball, softball. The biggest thing that it definitely saves, and you're going to see that coming up in the next couple of weeks, no rainouts for baseball, softball. I mean, we can, as long as it's not lightning, we're playing. So that's huge. That's a huge savings to the district. I mean, it's going to be well utilized.
And hopefully it's not like the fall when there are 5 lightning.
Agreed.
Yeah, the other question, the machines that in the beginning of COVID, the cleaning machines that were.
The sprayers, yes.
Yeah. How did that work and will we continue using it as COVID winds down?
We have backed off on the schedule. They still are spraying. And we also have protocol for if we have a COVID positive case in a classroom or an isolation room in the school. Obviously, we bump in during the day to spray. But we have backed off on some of we were doing 2 times a day, like trying to hit the rooms in between class changes and stuff like that at lunch, but it's pretty much par for the course, still spraying.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. As we pass around our PowerPoint for today, again, my name is Matt McKenna, Director of Health, Physical Education, and Athletics here at Niagara Wheatfield, and I'll be sharing with everybody tonight the athletic budget for 2022 and 2023. Again, the budget that I'm presenting here today comprises of all levels. That's JV, varsity, modified or unified programs, which total 63 athletic programs, plus the Athletic Hall of Fame is also considered in our budget. So you can see right there. So the first budget line, I'll be going through each budget line, just kind of giving a very brief summary and synopsis of each of the budget lines here. And number one, looking at where we were last year and where we're looking at, or currently this year, excuse me, and looking at where we're going to go for here, 22, 23. As you can see, no change there. We're looking at the same amount for our equipment budget. Again, for this in particular line, it's for larger items. As you can see there, if we are looking to get soccer goals, caging, that's just larger purchased equipment items. That's the line we take out of that one. Contractual 410. You can see the numbers have not increased, stayed the same. Again, these are for our sports officials, reconditioning, trainer contracts and such. These are our contractual items from our athletics budget. Continue on to supports custodial supplies. This was actually one that really didn't get a lot of movement in years prior, but obviously in the last couple of years, we had quite a bit of use for this because it was a lot with their disinfectant wipes, wipes to wipe down our athletic machines, maintenance supplies, stuff like that, we didn't want to, jump into any of Greg's budget or anything like that. So we've always had this, but this one, obviously we had a lot of stuff coming from stimulus and, Greg was very helpful this year and in the past year with those types of things, but it was something that we used as well. So that's more custodial. 450 is supplies. This is where a majority of our supplies come from. Again, that ranges from, basketball, soccer balls, more of your smaller general type of supplies. Now you can see there, here's the interesting one, and you'll see when we get to our grand total here at the end, that here's the discrepancy. And the reason for this discrepancy is in 2021-22. Obviously, there was several seasons where we did, a couple of seasons in there where we didn't have anything going on, and we didn't use all those supplies. So we had the supplies from the prior year still available for 21-22. So we kind of reduced that number down. In addition to that, with the backup and the backlog of trying to get any types of supplies in, we were actually in pretty good shape. So for again, 21-22. But now that we've gone through a full year, a full boat of games, a full season, and looking like we're going to finish up the spring season without any problems here too, you know, we have to go back to where we originally were for those materials and supplies for our athletic budget. So there you can see just the change in that. Last year we added our uniform line. I think this is critical. And I'm very happy that, you know, Ellison and Dan and obviously you, the Board of Education, were able to approve that as part of our budget. Because we are going back now. I know from, you know, looking at previous contracts and invoices for some sports, you know, 11, 12 years without uniform. So we are on a very nice rotation now with this, where we'll be able to refurbish or renew our uniforms. Our goal is every 4 years. Some sports, you know, we tend to maybe do it a little longer with our modified sports, but we're into a nice rotation now to where we're able to fund those and not have uniforms that are not only outdated, but when you get into different types of uniforms too, not only they're outdated, but you can't get any replacements for them. They just start, they don't make them anymore. So it looks kind of funny when you have two different uniforms on one team. So we're really happy for that line. And again, we'll have that same amount for 22-23. Our Wall of Fame, again, Mr. Fogel and the whole team does a tremendous job. We have our awesome ceremony in November, and much of that in our wonderful plaques in the hallway have a lot to do with this budget line right here. And that's our Wall of Fame 451. This year, as you can see there, 21-22, it was a goal of ours to give a little assistance to our girls and boys hockey programs. So we put a proposal together that was approved last year. So $5,000 will be associated with their girls and boys hockey program. And they'll help break down the middle, $2,500 for each program, subsidize some of that money for a lot of their practice times. I think it actually worked out perfect for our girls this year. It was close to dead on. You know, obviously they don't have as many practices or contests, material supplies, so forth. And again, it comes down to the number of girls, right? We have four girls that are playing hockey right now for the girls team, because it is a multiple district team, opposed to our boys team that have 20 athletes on it and a greater number of practices. So that code right there, 417, is for girls and boys hockey. The probably grand total for athletics. And then again, you can see there 21-22 this current year, opposed to next year, 22-23. Again, going back to the previous slide, we didn't have the 5,000 for hockey. And then also the additional monies for our materials and supplies that we really didn't need again this year because of the outstanding amount that we had from the year before with COVID and not having all our sports going. So we had a lot of extra stuff. So in summary, there's the grand total for this upcoming year. Again, just as a side note, the pins that you received many years ago when I started here, we started our staff appreciation day, and each of the seniors on the varsity teams choose a staff member. It could be a teacher, it could be administrator, it could be even a lunch monitor, bus driver, whoever. And we've seen it all. It's tremendous to see. They honor that staff member and they give them that pin. So we appreciate you folks for allowing us to do all this, and hopefully you like this year's pin. We do a new one every year, so hopefully you can collect them. Any questions?
Matt, both you and Greg mentioned custodial supplies. And, you know, the last 2 years, there's been a lot of COVID. But the common cold and the flu have actually seems to have been down. And I don't really know the answer to that. But to me, common sense says we're more conscious of washing our hands, using hand disinfectant, and whatever use has been doing in school seems to have worked. So as COVID goes down, I'm hoping we don't go down in that area, because it does help with other infectious diseases as far as the common cold and flu. So I just hope, and I'm sure you will, just don't lose sight of that and continue whatever you are doing, because you're doing a good job.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And one of the things, I guess the fortunate thing is that we did have a good stockpile of sanitary wipes and different types of things like that, you know, I think will be good for quite a bit of time here. So it was maybe a benefit that we had a lot of that still left over. So yeah, I think we're in pretty good shape. And of course, and even before COVID, it was always, you know, strict policy, weight room, gym, stuff like that. We always sanitized it. It was always, you know, wipe down the machines, those types of things was always the protocol.
Thank you.
Yep.
Question. Contractual code 410, which is the officials and trainers and stuff. Is that a comfortable number? I mean, from last year, knowing what you're on the negotiating team for the officials.
Yeah. No,
That's kind of why I
yeah.
bring it up, and you know
yes.
as much as I know.
Yes, it's a great question. Yeah, it's $1 million question, because, you know, currently, as Mr. Fercucci said, that I'm on the negotiating team for Section 6, and we're right now currently negotiating with all the officials. You know, fortunately, we know how negotiations go. They don't, you don't solve any, you know, negotiations overnight. So we've been at this for now 3 months, and it could run into, you know, close to July, maybe even past. I think we're, you know, I have it the same, but I think we're going to be in good shape. You know, we never know during negotiations how much that's going to increase. But I think we have enough buffer room to where we would be in good shape if that increases. That was something that we certainly look into, but it's a valid point.
Applying for equipment. I know one of the things in the past that there's always comes due the football helmets reconditioning, getting new helmets to meet. Where are we at that and replacement cycle? And
Yeah, I've always been a big proponent. You know, some schools do it. I mean, by regulation, you only have to do it every other year. We've always done it every year. I think it's safe and more important that with all our equipment that we do that every year. even level, especially last year, you know, there was some equipment that we didn't use, but with the kids that were using some of it, that wasn't with COVID, you know, we still redo it. So basically after the football season, it's basically just football. You know, most of the lacrosse athletes, they have their own chest protector and stuff like that. So we don't recondition those. We just make sure they're not actually sealed, which is, you know, they're legal for NFHS and sanctioned sports. That right after the season comes, it's a matter of 2 weeks before they come and collect it. And, you know, ironically, at any day now, we should be receiving all that back. So it's on a yearly basis that we get everything reconditioned. Fortunately, I haven't seen a dramatic increase in that, which is a positive. You know, certainly they're trying to sell you the ball of wax that, you know, it's, you can, you know, use this extra sanitizer and it'll eliminate COVID forever. And, you know, we don't go that far. You know, we just do the, you know, what we've always done, and it's always good for the reconditioning, but always something that we keep in mind, excuse me, with this line, because it is something that's one of the items that we continually, because we recondition, we also have to recondition our helmets, and with football helmets, you know, they're outdated and then they're obsolete. So we, instead of trying to buy 100 helmets for 1 year, we just continually buy 10 helmets, 10 helmets, 10 helmets. So we never get to that point where we're, you know, behind a great deal. That's kind of our philosophy.
How many helmets you got, like, or,
In our inventory right now, we have 107 helmets.
I mean, like, fail when they come, when it goes out?
Yeah, it kind of goes up and down. I mean, some fail because they're just in poor shape and some fail because they're obsolete. This year, I think maybe there wasn't a lot of wear and tear because a couple less games, but we came back 2 months later. That was the big challenge there, is that we ended in June and we had to have stuff back in July. And it was touch and go there, in that mid-August, trying to get some of that stuff back because they weren't, none of these, they had to do 97 schools in the area, trying to get all their football equipment back in a matter of 2 months. So it was a little bit helter-skelter, but Rydell did a nice job getting everything back for us. But yeah, it goes up and down. Sometimes this year we didn't have as many, but next year, looking at some of the dates, we might be, minus 15, 16 helmets because they're outdated.
You have enough of that built in your budget if you had to.
Yeah.
add 5.
Yeah, and again, it's the proper rotation, I think, is the key. Good question. Yeah, thank you.
Steve.
Hi, everyone. I'm Steve Metzger. I'm the Assistant Director of Special Programs, and I'm filling in for Mary tonight. So hopefully I get some big shoes to fill there. So special programs, who we service and the students we support. We support students with special needs ages 3 through 21. In addition to that, we support students under the Section 504. And we also support students who are English language learners as well. Just kind of a breakdown of where these students are. 60% of students ages 5 through 21 with IEPs are supported in the general education settings. So that means they're in classrooms, they're mainstreamed in classrooms with their general education peers, whether it's a co-teaching classroom or it's a classroom with a general education teacher and a consultant teacher. So that makes up 60% roughly. The 25% those are the students also ages 5 through 21 with IEPs who are supported in a more specialized setting, like a self-contained class, 12-1-1, 12 students, 1 aide and 1 teacher, or a 15-1, which can have up to 15 students and a teacher. And then the 15% of students ages 5 through 21 are students that are supported in the specialized settings outside of Niagara-Wheatfield. So like our BOCES settings or our agency settings. And so it's just a comparison between last year and the upcoming school year of where, what the budget implications are. Not much has changed. And I'll get into a couple specifics on the next slide, but it's very similar to what we had for last year. So here's just the 3 areas where there are some changes. Travel and conferences, we've decreased that in our department. There have been CSE, Committee on Special Education, contractual expenses that have increased. It's roughly around 20,000, and that's just because of the needs of the students that change year to year, having the programs to support them. And then special education charter school payments made up for about.
Just really quick for anybody who's wanting to
Yeah.
contractual expense, that means the expense that the contracts that we have with for outsourcing
Correct.
for those students, just for everybody's.
And that, yeah, and that's like, Western New York dyslexia, if we need to give additional supports for a student in the areas of reading, or if we have to do like a technology evaluation through UB. So those are some examples of that. And then for the charter school payments, we do service students not only at parochial, but also our charter school, and we have students there. So that covers the tuition expenses for that. And just some ongoing things that we're doing. We're continuing to do professional development in the area of integrated co-teaching. That's something that's being done at the high school. So we're continuing to offer opportunities for that, and just opportunities for teachers, specifically at the elementary level, to get more training in specially designed reading instruction. That's it for me. Are there any questions?
Go back to your numbers.
Yeah. So you could see there, we talked about the contract expenses, the contractual expenses. That's where the biggest increase was, about 20,000.
Special ed charter schools.
So that was, do you want to speak to that, Allison? Because that didn't make it in last
We
year.
didn't budget it last year because I don't know what happened. It was either oversight or the child that was in the charter school was not there anymore. But it's important to budget it because if we have someone in a charter school, we have to be able to pay for it. So I put it back in this year.
Hey, Alice, how did we make out last year? I think it was part of the conversation last year, that like, special programs are kind of like make or break it on how many special ed you have enrolled. Is it, there's just a separate, this is a different issue.
Well, I think if I'm not mistaken, just tell me if I am. I think what you're referring to is that from one year to the next, there could be pretty significant fluctuations. So it's one of the lines that we always have but it is probably the line that we have the most significant cushion built into because one student, depending on the program they could go to, could be $120,000. Even more now. That's an old number, I think. So if they had to go to a program where they had to live there, the district could be responsible for that program.
Just out of curiosity, how this year, how are we looking at budget previous?
I mean, we're within our budgeted amount. Next year, because the amount of students now enrolled in those programs, the gap is a lot smaller. But we're still within our budget.
And maybe, and I don't know if this is part of the answer to the question, but one of the things that we said that did happen is we had some increase in students who were requiring services following COVID. So, it was another reason why we thought from 2021 to 21-22, we had an increase in that line as well.
And one of the things that's in both houses of the legislature in New York State is we're gonna be able to create a reserve fund for special education. Reason for it being there was a district in New York State that had outsourced the child because they could not provide services, and with the number of services needed, roughly came up to about $500,000 for that child to go to that special needs program. And of course, there is not many districts that have an emergency fund of $500,000 for one child's expense like that. So that's why both houses of the legislature, and we talked about that at the legislative breakfast, have created that.
If I could just say
reserve
one
fund.
more thing, didn't interrupt you, but Mary and I are really trying hard to look at building our continuum of services to offer new opportunities to students. When we first arrived in Wheatfield, we had our consultant teaching model, and I'm speaking more towards the elementary level. And we also had the 12-1-1 model, specialized classes. This year, we did put in something that's in between at the elementary level, a 15-1-1 class. It's over at Eric Road, and it's been very successful so far. So now, when we go to committee and we have students that, possibly need to be recommended from a more restrictive environment, they don't have to go from being mainstreamed in the consultant teaching model to 12-1-1, switching schools to Colonial Village. We have something in between now, another opportunity for them. So I appreciate everyone's support with helping us get that up and running.
And if I could just add one piece to that, and it also means that we're not looking as often for programs that are outside of our school. So
That's
our students
correct.
get to stay within our school.
Yes.
Yes, all the departments for years have been good, but for the last 25 years, I'm watching the special ed from a distance. And I have to tell you, with the amount of different leadership changes, that department has been so consistent and have done a wonderful job. The teachers involved in it, all your staff, to help our students with special needs. I can tell you this on a personal note, someone very, very, very close to me probably would not be where he is today if it wasn't for your department.
Oh.
And I sincerely mean that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And we're very well supported by not only you guys, but also Dan and the rest of admin. So we're very fortunate. Thank you.
Dominic. Jeff will sit on the left side of the room next year.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Dominic Borelli, Food Service Director, and here to present the 22-23 food service budget. Current food service issues, as most of you are aware, there is a nationwide supply chain issue on many items. Many food choices ordered for the current school year have just come up canceled, no shows, no explanations. This is the time of year where I have to forecast the following entire school year to see what kind of participation, what kind of products that students would be looking for. There is currently very little substitution available. Daily, I'm on the phone, I'm on emails, checking to see what we can provide for these students. Again, it's a nationwide issue. New York State ban on foam products went into effect. The last day was December 31st. So we used to be able to provide a lunch to go on a 5-compartment styrofoam tray. No longer available. A lot of products, paper and plastic, are hard to get a hold of. If there is something available, a larger district maybe purchased 20,000 cases of it and leaves nothing for the rest of us. And in a moment like that, prices are quadruple, if not even higher, to try to find a substitute item. Shortage of paper and plastic goods. This year, I cannot provide straws to the students. Impossible to find. I was told at least it's another year out before that becomes available. And the same thing I noticed with plastic teaspoons for the kids to have their cereal. Check local, check statewide, check nationwide. We're all going through this crisis at the moment, but we're doing the best we can. We're checking every day to try to find something to provide for these students. We are part of the Erie One BOCES bid, Niagara and Erie County School Districts. Every week I'm receiving an email. The prices that they were supposed to, manufacturers are no longer honoring those prices on the Erie One BOCES. They're pulling it. So if I receive an email to let me know that cereal, which used to be, just as an example, $30 a case, is now $65 a case, if you can even get those products. So that is just a short list of what we're dealing with on a daily basis in food service. Salary and fringe benefits. As most of you are aware, we are a self-supporting program. The salary and fringe benefits are contractual increases that are built into our budget. That is our program expenses on 4-item line budget there for food. Currently, we are budgeted for 400,000. We are going to exceed that, and it's only March. Next year, I've increased it 200,000 to see where we're going to be with this. And talking to local directors across the state and across the country, this crisis that we're going through, this issue, they're probably looking about 2 years out that it's going to continue this pattern. For the supply line, if we had budgeted 30,000, increasing it by 45,000 for a projected expenditure of 75,000 for next year, and the other 2 line items remain the same. For new equipment repair, contractual bank services, conferences that we have not been able to attend, pretty much an even wash for next year with the same amount of expenditures. in closing, I wanted to share with you, if you've heard anything in the news or the media about universal feeding. As Mr. Lalanich had mentioned, the free meals end June 30th of this current school year. If the federal government approves universal feeding, that means free breakfast and lunch for all students, what could be a longevity amount of time, a decade or a long stretch of time, which is beneficial. If approved, universal feeding will continue to increase participation in our food service program. We've seen an increase in breakfast and lunch this year as students have come back, as the meals are free, and it's allowing parents to put money for their children to buy snacks. Snacks are a privilege in our program, but it's a win-win, and we're hoping that this goes through and that this gets approved. Any questions?
Is that reflected in the food dollars?
Universal feeding?
Let me just hop in and say, because he had mentioned that he was over budget this year in the food. Part of that is the cost increases, and the other part is the actual feeding free breakfast and lunch for all the students. So it's increased the food cost because he's been able to accommodate a lot more students. And it's offset by the revenues that we get from the federal and state breakfast. Yeah.
But is that in this number?
That's, so the increase next year, that increase in the food is also part of the same. We're right now assuming that that's going to continue along with additional price increases.
So, and Bob, you can just answer that a little bit further too. You know, what you're looking at is the expenditure budget, not the revenues that'll come in to offset that. So, you know, as long as the amount that's given by the federal government for the feeding program offsets that, then we'll be okay when we increase that expenditure line.
You're the one I wanted, Don.
Uh-oh.
I'm only teasing you. I just want to tell you, I'm going to continue my trend tonight with the amount of changes you've had in the last couple of years, delivering food, breakfast, and the lunches, and feeding everyone that you are. You and your staff have really done a nice job. And
Thank
I
you.
want to thank you.
I appreciate it. I'll make sure I share that with them tomorrow. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick question. The supplies, is that something that's also reimbursed through the, I don't know.
No, like the other budget codes are offset by revenues that he would get for adult meals or snack revenues, things like that, which are not as high as we anticipated this year. Because he hasn't been able to fill the snack machines, because he hasn't been able to get the beverages to fill the machines, so the revenue on that side is very low.
Or for like to-go containers, like those increased prices, those are not, we have to eat those.
My program absorbs those costs.
I just don't have time to have the program.
No pun intended.
I was just going to say.
I know the students are appreciative of the after-school programs and stuff, because the way that you're allowing them to get their breakfast or lunch at any time, as long as they haven't gotten enough, 2 of them throughout the day. So I know many of them are taking advantage of that right after school before their events, because they're, some of them don't even have lunches, and they're enjoying, they're appreciative of that.
Every year I have a temporary position posted an hour and a half staff to come in, and as soon as lunch is over, turn around. We have created the after school sports snack line, supported Mr. Athletic Director. It's out there and just brings in all the students and let them know that we're open. And as you mentioned, if a child did not get breakfast or lunch during the day for whatever reason, they can receive one 2 to 3:30. If they're there for sports, if they're traveling schools, whatever it is. It's been very well received.
Excellent.
Thank you. All right, thank you. I just want to take a moment for each board member here tonight, Mr. Lalanich, Allison Davis. Thank you for your continued support of the food service program. The last couple of years have been difficult, but I think the worst is behind us, so we're going to move forward. All right.
Mr. Hazel.
Good evening. Jeff Hazel, Director of Curriculum Instruction and Tech. We'll be talking about the budget for the upcoming year. There we go. First, thank you for last year for the creation of that Technology Reserve Fund. About a year ago, I came to you seeking, presenting actually a technology sustainability plan. We now have a fund that we can access to make sure that we've got the Chromebooks and the classroom technology up to date and replaced as needed throughout the course of the years, multiple years to come. So I want to lead by saying thank you for that. This coming year, actually right now, we're purchasing replacement Chromebooks. They have about a 5-year lifespan, so we're actually replacing the vast majority of them before the start of the upcoming school year. And we're also looking to replace and upgrade our classroom instructional interactive projectors. So those would be the projectors. They're fixed to the ceiling, project to the wall for the most part, about a good 85 inches, pretty bright, and computers that are attached to them. So that's the kind of things that we'll be looking to purchase out of this, the reserve fund. In the long run, we'll be looking to replace the document web cameras that we bought for COVID. Now that we know what the actual use, what the function is, what kind of a solution would be ideal in the long run. But for now, they're working great. Computer assisted instruction. So I'm going to go through our various budget codes here. This is how we pre-technology reserve would pay for things like a lab of computers or a handful of interactive projectors for perhaps some newly created positions, things of that sort, software like Zern for elementary school. This is also where we would pay for contract maintenance and repairs, some oddball things like for phones or PA systems. No change to this, in large part, frankly, because of that technology reserve. Curriculum development and supervision. This is how we, this is where we pay for, say, new teacher training for our, oh my gosh, for our 30 new teachers or so this year. Internal professional development, training materials for when Jen Goliath brings in the math and reading specialists at the elementary level in for a day to work on a new material. No increase to this line either. In service, this is your traditional conference line, so to speak, your in-service training. This is the line that we would use to pay for external trainers for, say, our science program, or to come in from BOCES, for example, to talk about content-specific standards work at the secondary level, some regional conferences. This is actually the line where we pay for summer professional development. We had a nice summer of professional development. We ran some Google Classroom schools this past summer. We look to run such a thing again this coming summer, but no increase to this section here. BOCES services, this is, you know, large part of tech and instruction PD, really. Classroom technology integration. So for example, we have a BOCES, they call it a CSLO trainer who comes in and is available for our teachers should they have questions about how to engage the kiddos with Google Classroom or Zoom, using Zoom in a new and interesting fashion, that sort of thing, eDoctrina, for example. Software services, we buy the vast majority of our software through services with BOCES. It's aidable that way. Elementary PBIS would be a good example, some training that's being provided over at Eric Road and CV for the past few years. Our new library automation, which we're actually using as an inventory now for the tech hardware as well, because you can scan devices in and out with the kids and send letters automatically home like we used to with the library book. So it's pretty clever what Jessica Smith figured out how to do there. Website platform is, of course, a BOCES service, as well as is our calling system. No change to this. This is the fun slide. So instructional materials. Elementary instructional materials have previously been purchased with available one-time funds after the conclusion of the school year. So typically Jen and I would be chatting with the principals throughout the spring. We'd identify what needs to be purchased, and come July or when Allison would say so, we'd make that purchase for new instructional materials for the elementary level. And we're not talking about glue sticks and scissors. We're talking about literacy materials, math, science, phonics, instructional materials. So that's how we used to do it. We're seeking to move this over to an annual budget line, which will permit us to purchase those materials really in January through March, because we know what we need. And by purchasing it in January through March, we'll be able to have that available for the teachers come June, so they can bring them home for the summer, or we can offer training during the summer. But basically that way they can hit the ground running in September. When we purchase them in the summertime, it's real tough to actually get those things in place by the start of the school year. So what we did was we sat down with the principals. We took a look at everything that we've purchased over the course of the past number of years, the life expectancy for those types of programs. We took a look at what was software and thus could be paid for with state aid. We took a look at textbooks and therefore what could be paid for with state aid. And at the end of the day, averaging over a 5-year cycle, it's approximately $250,000. So we're simply looking to take that from the one-time sort of scene into the actual budget line, allowing us to purchase them earlier on in the school year. So in summary, again, thank you for last year for the ability to have sustainability in the technology hardware zone. That's a real help there. We're going to seek to maintain the inventory, gradually strengthen the inventory in technology, but as for the regular budget codes, no increases there. Curriculum development, in-service training, technology, or professional development, no changes there. Same with the BOCES services. But the instructional materials, that's where we're looking for $250,000 reallocated from previous one-time expenses to an annual line that we could access in January, February, and March. Thank you. Any questions?
I'm just gonna add something.
Yeah.
Because I know Jeff touched on a few things for BOCES services, but we as a district contract with BOCES for managed services for technology. And those costs are going to increase slightly based on some of the information we received. They've added some, combined some other lines that were separated into that, so that cost has gone up. I don't believe that was in your presentation, managed services piece. We didn't talk about that at all. So it's something separate, but it kind of falls under technology. So when you see the budget, you'll see an increase in those, but it's mainly due to that, for the technology piece.
Would it be more cost effective for us to stop using managed services, bring back control here?
Honestly, for the amount that they're doing, it would probably, we'd be hiring a number of people, to be honest. And there's a lot of other things that are all lumped into that managed services, which Jeff, you could probably talk better too about that, or Jessica.
Yeah, in brief, certainly there are staff. Let me get this straight in my head real quick. We have, was it 2.0 technicians? There's a network administrator that they provide. He's a 0.2 network administrator. Those are the folks who are actually on site. Behind the scenes, there's a fair amount of what they call it wide area network work that's being done. I don't know what they would continue to, I don't know where the line is drawn between that which BOCES and the Winnie Rick provide to all the schools in Western New York and that which is specific to managed services. So I can't give you a good answer there. It's an interesting question.
But it includes, I believe, some of the costs of the servers are included in there.
Yeah, there's a fair
There's
amount wrapped
lot
up
of-
into it.
A lot of little things kind of lumped in there that we would probably still have to pay BOCES for. But the big thing is really the support that we get from them. The fees that we acquire, that we get the aid on.
Right. With your Chromebook purchases, how close are we to being a one-to-one district?
So we have 2,200 Chromebooks. I would say that the goal that we've talked about at our instructional leadership team meetings is that we want a one-to-one that we would define as where in any classroom, there's enough of the devices necessary. The elementary principals, we've discussed how we really don't need a class set of Chromebooks in kindergarten, for example. But once you hit third grade, you really do. We've also discussed things like, do we need touchscreen or not touchscreen? But at the end of the day, to answer your question, we were at about 2,200. We're gradually increasing. We're able to use some of our federal CRIS funds for some of that. I think we're going to be able to make very good use of the reserve in the upcoming year. Our immediate goal is let's replace that which is expiring, and then push the envelope. Just don't want to push it too quick.
Were the CRIS funds were the ones that they just reopened up in January that you could put another order in?
You know, it's the second time I've heard that today. You could certainly speak better. I've only heard that they've been open for us along, and we can put amendments in anytime we want.
Right. We put them in.
I've heard they reopened the period again for it, as long as you took delivery of the devices before the end of the school year, which, as you know, it's not.
Yeah, we could talk about that. No, I wasn't aware of that specific thing, but we actually just discussed all those grants today, this afternoon, and we talked about different options for the unallocated funds. That's one of them, certainly.
And has BOCES changed the 5-year lifespan on the Chromebooks and extended it?
You know what?
And
So,
the reason I asked that is
yeah.
because when I was working with our BOCES tech in our district,
Yeah,
he said that they're extending it to, I think, 8 years.
I've seen 6. You know what? I've seen 6 years, but not 8. You know, the one thing that we did was we waited long enough this school. Jessica waited long enough this school year to put the purchase in. Actually, just approved it this morning, so that we could get the newer model that would give us 6 years. If we'd made the purchase, say 3 months ago, it would have been the old model, only 5 years. But I haven't seen 8, but I have seen 6.
Are we buying them all at once, or are we kind of?
Yeah, so I prefer not to buy them all at once, because then the poor tech department's going to be trying to set up 2,000 in a summer. But the
If you buy them all at once, they sit there because you only have, by the time you prioritize before our network and get everything correct the way you want it to be set up, you have a pile sitting there that are not being pushed out to use.
And we don't want to
exactly
split the budget like that either. You know, we want to spread it out so it's planned something here.
that is the goal, is to get it down to where it's reasonably level every year.
Is it replace the projectors?
Yeah.
Do you have a brand that you're going with? Are you going back to smart, or are you just going to go with the generic projector, since you don't really use many smart features on them?
So we found these Epson interactive projectors. They hang from the ceiling and they display to the wall. They're bright. They have a large projection. What our vendor that provides our printers, of all things, pointed out that they have another brand of actual interactive display, which I would love to see. They're brighter.
Like Clear Touch?
Yeah, that kind of thing, right? But they're small. So, I mean, 70 inches. And so before we do that, I asked Jess to get one on loaner so we can see how big or small it is. But the concern that I've shared is when you get one of those, when we go from a nice big 85-inch projection screen right to an interactive display, which I would love, I want to make sure the kids in the back row can actually see it clearly. I wouldn't want to take a classroom from where it's big and relatively bright to super bright but small. So we're trying to see what's out there.
Do you include these by any chance?
I would love
All
to.
the wheels are going on these.
Can we do that? Oh, good.
Derek's already
Thank you.
looking up.
Thank you. It's great to hear.
Any other questions? Rick wanted to know when you're changing to Apple products.
We'll talk. Thank you.
Just a comment. You know, first, thank you all for being here tonight. The individuals that just presented are just a small group of some of the incredible leaders who we have in our district. And as you saw, particularly pertaining to the budget and the difficulties during COVID, this group's handled it as well as anybody I could ever imagine. There was zero whining, there was zero, they're all about how can we do it? Let's find a way. Let's make sure we make it work for kids. It's what they do every day. That's what they care about. So thank you for all the work that you've done. It certainly hasn't been easy, but you didn't expect it to be, and you worked through it and you worked through it together. So thanks.
All right. Any items for board discussion? Any old business then? Any new business? Public comments? Anyone? All right. Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, we do have to go through them. Okay. All right. So that would be under actually old business. So I could call for a motion to amend the tax cap calculation to reflect the 2.57%. Is there a second to that? And seconded. Any further discussion of that item? And then all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? Motion carries. All right, any public comment? All right, board member comments. I just to thank you to all of you again for coming out with that, the presentations. Yeah, I know when we talk about the return to normal from COVID, it's not just return to normal in the academic world, but all the managerial world with trying to figure out where your budget lies now after where we were 2 years ago, where normalcy was. So thank you again for everything. All right, then, if there's no board member comments, except I will say again, come to the musical, The Addams Family. You know, it sounds great. I've listened. I'm sick of listening to it because of my daughter being in it and hearing that music over and over again. But still not as bad as Into the Woods.
How do we get tickets?
That on our website, I think there's a link, correct? Yeah.
I haven't seen it yet, but very likely.
Yeah, I think there is on there. So, but I believe there is a link on there. If you go under the high school and then you go to they have the music department link on there.
I'll make sure I send something out to the board.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right, then I'll call for a motion to adjourn. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed or abstaining? We're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.